a small room on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. New York City, a winter night in 1943. A thin, elderly man lies dead in his bed, alone with only a few pigeons he used to feed every day for company. No wife, no children, no one by his side. When he died, his pockets held almost nothing but a few notebooks and some patent papers. And yet this same man was the one who lit up the entire modern world. The electricity running through your own home right now is, in all likelihood, still operating on a principle he invented more than a century ago. His name was Nikola Tesla, and this is the story of a genius who changed the world, only for the world to nearly forget him. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in a small village called Smiljan, then part of the Austrian Empire and now in Croatia. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest with broad knowledge and an impressive memory. But it was his mother, Nikola Tesla, whom Tesla later credited as the true source of his talent. She had no formal education, yet she possessed an extraordinary memory and built her own household tools and devices by hand. From an early age, Tesla showed an unusual mind. He had the ability to picture entire machines in his head in such vivid detail that he could almost watch them running before he ever picked up a pencil to draw them. This was, in fact, the method he used to design nearly all of his later inventions, building and testing them completely in his mind before touching a single piece of material. Tesla's childhood was far from peaceful. His older brother, Dane, died in an accident while Tesla was still a boy, an event that left young Nikola feeling as though he had to live for two lives instead of one. That weight may well be what forged the almost tireless work ethic that defined him for the rest of his life. Tesla studied at the Graz Polytechnic in Austria, where he first encountered direct current motors, and even then, he sensed there had to be a more efficient way to transmit electrical power. He later studied at Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, but financial hardship meant he never completed a formal degree. That, however, did nothing to slow the growth of his mind. In 1882, while walking through a park in Budapest, Tesla had a sudden moment of revelation. A complete image of an alternating current motor appeared in his mind, a motor far more efficient than the direct current systems in use at the time. He sketched the principle in the dirt with a stick, and from that moment on, the purpose of his life was set. 2 years later, in 1884, Tesla arrived in New York with just 4 cents in his pocket, a few poems he had written, and a letter of introduction to Thomas Edison, the most powerful man in the electrical industry at the time. Edison hired him, impressed by the young Serbian engineer's mind. But between the two men lay a difference neither could bridge. Edison had staked his entire career on direct current, while Tesla was certain the future belonged to alternating current. Tensions came to a head when, according to several accounts, Edison promised Tesla $50,000 if he could successfully improve the company's generator systems. When Tesla delivered, Edison is said to have laughed it off as nothing more than an American joke. Tesla left the company immediately. Historians still debate exactly how true this story is, but it captures the real rift between the two men. One a pragmatic businessman, the other a scientist chasing principle and perfection. After leaving Edison, Tesla went through a brutal stretch, at one point digging ditches just to survive. The turning point came when he met George Westinghouse, a businessman who recognized the enormous potential in Tesla's alternating current patents. Westinghouse bought the rights and the two became partners. What followed became known to historians as the War of the Currents. Fearing he would lose his dominant position, Edison launched a public campaign to discredit alternating current, even staging public demonstrations in which animals were electrocuted with AC power to prove how dangerous it was. But in the end, engineering reality spoke louder. In 1893, the AC system built by Tesla and Westinghouse was chosen to illuminate the entire World's Fair in Chicago, a spectacle that stunned the public as the whole fairground blazed with electric light through the night. 2 years later, in 1895, the decisive victory came when the Adams Power Station at Niagara Falls, using Tesla's alternating current technology, successfully transmitted electricity dozens of kilometers to power the city of Buffalo. This moment is widely seen as the point that confirmed alternating current as the future of electrical power worldwide. And to this day, nearly every electrical grid on Earth still runs on the principle Tesla invented. Winning the war of the currents was not enough to satisfy Tesla. His mind had already moved on to an even bigger dream: transmitting electricity and information across vast distances without a single wire freely, for the benefit of all humanity. He believed the Earth itself could be turned into one giant conductor, carrying energy anywhere through the air and the ground. With financial backing from the financier J.P. Morgan, Tesla began building an ambitious project on Long Island, New York, known as Wardenclyffe Tower. It was never just a transmission tower. It was a symbol of the largest ambition of his life, a world where electrical power was shared as freely as air. But the project reached far beyond what its era could support. When Morgan realized that Tesla's model of free universal power transmission could never turn the kind of profit he expected, the funding was pulled. Construction stalled halfway through, and with it much of Tesla's fortune and reputation collapsed as well. The tower that was once meant to connect the entire world was eventually torn down and sold for scrap to pay off debts. After the failure of Wardenclyffe, Tesla gradually withdrew from public life. He spent his final years moving from one New York hotel room to another, relocating whenever he could no longer afford the rent. And yet he never stopped working. Tesla continued to put forward ideas far ahead of his time: robotics, renewable energy, defensive weapon systems based on directed energy, though most were not taken seriously by the scientific community of his day. He lived alone, finding companionship mainly in the pigeons he fed every day in New York's parks, going so far as to say once that he loved a particular white pigeon, the way a person loves another human being. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla died alone in his room at the New Yorker hotel at the age of 86, with almost no money to his name. Over the course of his life, Tesla held more than 300 patents around the world. He didn't just lay the foundation for the alternating current system that all of humanity still relies on today. He also laid early groundwork for radio, remote control technology, and many of the wireless systems we now take for granted. The unit used to measure magnetic field strength in physics, the Tesla, was named in his honor, and it's probably no coincidence that one of the most famous electric car companies in the world today carries his name as well. Nikola Tesla's life is a story full of contradiction. A man who could see the future more clearly than almost anyone of his time, yet couldn't secure a future for himself. He never chased money or fame. He chased a single dream, using science to serve all of humanity. Perhaps that vision was simply too large for the era he lived in, and he paid for it with a lifetime of solitude. But more than a century later, electric light still glows in every home on Earth, a quiet reminder that the greatest dreams sometimes take more than one lifetime for the world to truly understand.